Kale Hope here, and today's topic is I want to know what is the funniest thing that someone has that you've tried to explain what it is that you do, but they just don't get it, and basically what they think that you do. Okay, now for me, doing marketing as an entrepreneur, there's of course a lot of misunderstandings or misconcepts of what I do actually. Basically, anyone who works from home or works online or anything of that nature, often it's gets misinterpreted, and also in marketing, that there is a lot of different, I guess, misconceptions and some uh, poor thoughts as to that. So, um, please leave in the comments exactly your experiences. I'm sure that you'll have some. So I'll go first. Basically, um, one thing that I remember is that I had a best friend that I've known since grade two. Grew up together, and we attended middle school together and high school, and we were friends well after high school. And I was the best man at his wedding and so forth. And he knew that I was really into doing anything online, whether it be web development or whether it be web design, doing consulting. When I got into that for local businesses, trying to help them out. And then, of course, as you can tell now, I've then branched out into online marketing as well. Well, I remember early on, I actually helped him out with doing some online marketing. Back then, there wasn't nearly as much competition when it came to things like display ads and pay to click ads and so forth. So I helped him out a lot with his web development, and he had always reluctantly was against anything that I would help him with, but he always looked to me as the expert. So there was a lot of push and pull when it came to things like he didn't want to spend money on any type of hosting, but then really needed my help when it came to it. He also basically didn't believe in WordPress, which at the time amounted to about 90% of all websites out there, and it would just be quicker and easier to do, and give him the flexibility and control, especially since he normally wasn't very tech savvy when it came to it. So I kind of took it on myself to be almost like his a personal IT person in a way. And so, in helping him out at the time, I actually helped him for that time achieve more success than myself. So when I was segueing into reseller hosting and things of that nature and helping him out for his niche, he actually started to earn at least a hundred, maybe more per month, which totally paid for his web hosting at the time, where he didn't want to spend any money. And he was getting checks through Google each month. Now, he kind of put his nose in the air about it, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous. Do let me know if I'm completely wrong on this, but I was paying out of pocket for my web hosting. So he got upset because, like, he wasn't earning to him very much, but at the same time, I felt like, well, his passion and hobby was within his niche. He's making this extra residual income. He wanted to scale up, and I try to help him out, but he felt also that as much as he wanted my help, he also felt as though his putting ads and things of that nature on his site would be kind of spammy, which I always thought was really weird. And then he wanted to pay me a portion for the ads, and I'm like, I'll put them on there. I really don't care about it. I really didn't need his money at the time, or just pay me for helping you out for the service that I'm providing. And he was reluctant on that, and for me, it was essentially one, I didn't want to charge my friend at the time. Now I'd have no problem with it. But at the time, it was also more or less, for me personally, without having access to all his statistics and so forth, and having a system in play to be able to really monitor how much of it is coming in, like what he's making, besides just what he tells me, to be able to know, if say we decided that it was a 50-50 split, which I think was what he wanted at the time, how much of it am I really getting 50-50? And without a system at that time, and this was very early on, this was like years ago, I really wasn't prepared to do that. I just wanted him to be successful, and really didn't want too much other than to help him out and grow my own niche, right? So it was kind of bothersome for me because I was trying to help small local businesses, and he had much different interests than I did at the time. But what it really came down to was, one of the times that I seen him, he basically ended up asking me when I said hi to him. He goes hi, and he asked, what I was up to, and I'm like, oh, I'm doing still marketing, and he replied with, oh, so you're just scamming people, and that threw me for a loop. Like, what do you mean? I my credibility and authority should be just on the fact that, like, he's seen the proof, because I helped him out with really helping his site end up reaching success. He made money. He ended up with lots of traffic, more so than what I was able to actually host his site at the time, because it was using way too much resources than what I anticipated originally when it came to it. It was nice that he was one of my clients, but I reluctantly said, I'd like to continue helping you out, but at this point, I've done all I can do at the stage in my development for him without me investing more money, and it just wasn't the right fit for me. So I let that client go, which I think is fair for it. And eventually he got upset too, and just, as the site declined and I got tired of offering advice, a lot of times free advice, and he just didn't want to take it. So, because of the push and pull dynamic on it, I just felt like it just wasn't the right fit for me. So, separated ways from that, which is one of the reasons why, for me, it's kind of this thing of, um, I would rather. Either not charge a friend or family for a project, not do the work, or charge them my regular rate for it. And of course, where I do more of the coding and product production and stuff like that, it gets away from the IT stuff, although I still do get friends and family that are like, oh, I really need your help, which I do, you know, help them out when I can. But if it's something that I feel like I'm rusty on the IT part, because to them it's kind of seen as all the same thing, the IT and coding, and to me they're different fields, altogether. Like, you wouldn't say that a nurse is a doctor, right? They're different altogether. But because they're both medical professions, for example, people may assume that they have the exact same duties, and that's just not the case at all. I guess that's the best way I can explain that part of it, without getting real technical or anything. That would be my best analogy, not knowing anything about the medical field at all. Thank you, Pedro. I really appreciate your comment there. Um, so I I had blocked my friend because he just started again, um, went from just saying some stuff that got under my skin and to just blatantly being disrespectful. Um, and so when that stopped, I just completely blocked him out of my life because he started saying that I was useless and all this other stuff, which was just starting to have a very bad negativity, and it just, I try and stay positive in my life. Um, Honestly, guys, I don't have the biggest self esteem. It's something I actually honestly have struggled through. I've always been kind of a loner and whatnot. So, and always been kind of like a introvert, I would identify myself as. So really, for him to say this, it just wasn't sitting well with me. So eventually, I don't need someone saying that I'm stupid because I have a different opinion than someone else. If I don't like what someone's saying, I'm not gonna call them something rude. I'm just simply, I have a difference of opinion, and I stay respectful, or at least try to in most situations for it. I try not to let the my emotions get the best of me, but I thought that it was just kind of belligerent. So, needless to say, after blocking, I haven't spoken to him in years. It's kind of sad. It becomes kind of lonely, but you should never, ever, let negative people back into your life at all. That is the greatest advice I can give when it comes to relationships with anyone. As they say, from the most successful people and leaders, um, it's lonely at the top, and it's true. The more success that I have has always been diminished if I go back to a previous relationship and try and mend that. It's always been that way. If I went back to a relationship that didn't work out, it might be fine for the next couple months, but it ultimately just, you find that it sinks back into the same negativity or toxicity for it. So just never do that. And so I do know that, where he lives here locally, my parents happened to run into him in public, and he happened to ask, "Oh, how is Kale doing?" And they're just kind of like, "Oh, he's doing good." So of course, when my mother had told me the story, that, "Oh, I ran into so and so," right? I go, "Oh, I haven't talked to that person in years. We kind of had a falling out." So I told them this. All right, and this is the best advice I can tell you, besides just making up excuses and things of this nature. Okay, so the what I told my mom to tell him is, the next time that you happen to see this person, if they ask anything about me, I want you to tell them, okay, and this is the line that I want them to use and what I would use. When someone asks about you that has no business knowing what you're doing and never is going to think good of what you're doing, you don't have to say what job you're doing, whether you're successful at the time or not successful at the time. I told my mother to tell this person that I'm minding my own business. Okay, so if you've ever read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I highly recommend that you read if you haven't, this works on two levels, okay? So for those that have read it or understand the first meaning in it, it basically means this. If you are minding your own business, you're keeping yourself on track, and you are covering out your own niche, you're doing what you need to do, and it's no one else's business, right? Um, and the other meaning, of course, is the more direct, you haven't bothered with me in years, and so you really don't care, so it shouldn't matter, right? Because that's my business. So it depends on, the mind frame of, um, the mindset of, um, how you interpret it. And so my take on it is this is all about mindset. There's those that have a negative mindset, that will always blame, um, others, whether it be their boss, their job, their friends, their family, for their shortcomings, you know, as and for those that are successful, they tend to have a more positive, driven mindset, and will do what they need to do. They'll look at things in a different way, as in, it is either a lesson or a blessing, basically, right? So, like, it's either, oh, great, this is a blessing, something worked out for me, or it's an opportunity. So I will take what didn't work, and I've learned from it, and it's a valuable lesson for life, and then they keep moving on from it. And that's just kind of what I've tried to do to kind of, change my life for the better, because honestly, I don't really want to, be on antidepressants, um, because those just make me feel as though, boy, I'm getting real personal here on this, but that makes me feel as though my head's in a vice, like just like a zombie state, in the sense of, um, I find it hinders my, creativity, um, and I need that. I rely on that to be creative, to be able to put out, products, to think outside the box, because when you're in the state of being medicated, in the sense of, um, and maybe this is wrong for those that serious depression or whatnot. I'm no doctor, okay? Like I mentioned, it, I I'm non-authority medically to know. I'm just talking from my own personal experiences, that the way that I felt when I was prescribed antidepressants at the time was that, um, for depression, and low self esteem and high anxiety and so forth. Um, for me, it was a sense of, it made me feel neither extremely happy or extremely sad, just somewhere in the middle. And that's why I say it's kind of this zombie state. Like everything's moving and functioning properly, but it's like you don't have the, I don't know, it removes that creativity from me to be able to think outside the box. So maybe the most creative people, you have to be a little crazy in this world to some extent, right? Um, and so I found much better ways to cope with things. One, eating right, exercising, getting enough sleep. I try and get enough sleep, but that really doesn't happen. um, and just trying to be more motivated, more positive in life in general. It's how I take things. It's the way that I perceive things and think more positively. And if you have to do something to get yourself in the right mind frame, whether that be, listen to inspirational speeches, because I'm honestly not a very religious or spiritual person, really. Um, I think the reason for that is that, unlike some of my religious or Christian friends, that find that religion works for them, and if that works for you, awesome. For me, I like the idea of networking with those people, but at the same time, please don't label me Don Cherry on that one for saying those people. Sorry. But for me, it becomes kind of, I guess, my whole thing is find strength in myself instead of feeling as though I have to be part of something. And this might come from the introvert part of me, but I feel like I like to take a little bit from everything, right? And not have my mindset and ideas and stuff shaped by the words of someone else all the time. So like that's why like I'll listen to a lot of different speeches from different entrepreneurs to take that advice in. I will network with a lot of different marketers. I will seek the advice of different mentors, not just, settle for one, you know, and I really find that that helps because I find when people are all about thinking that it all has to do with a deity or God or religion or whatnot, for me personally, I feel like that kind of takes away um, from finding strength in yourself. Like, I like the idea of, no, I did that, I worked hard for this and I achieved success. I shouldn't have to owe anything to anyone, really. At the end of the day, I was the one who got up and did it. And if I didn't, then I fail. And that's kind of how I am. But I know that that's going to be kind of controversial. Different people are going to have different takes on that. And so be it. I'm not going to beat about around the bush. I've always stayed very honest and true to myself when it comes to that. And like I said, this is just me talking frankly, uh, and it's all opinion based here for it. But it's what's worked for me, and I found lots of success over the years. And if I can share any words of wisdom or my experience and that helps others, then great. If that doesn't work for you, sorry. Um, it's just something where I've learned to take everything in, so to speak, and learn to separate the meat from the bone. You know, I've never been one to put up a block with people and just been like, no, that's just not right. I listen to what people have to say. I don't always agree with what people say, but there may be some inkling of truth somewhere deep down. Maybe not everything, but I take it for what it's worth, and I go from there. So, like I said, guys, if you're just tuning in now, I do want you to go ahead and let me know in the comments on an experience that you've had where you just had a hard time explaining what you do to someone else, that they just have this preconceived notion of what it is. I know that in marketing, especially, there is a lot of people that just have this misconception that everyone that's a marketer is a scammer or a drug dealer or something that just isn't right, because other people's mindset is that you can only get one type of income, and that is working a job, and for me, um that just isn't so. I believe that you can, and I know that you can because I've done it and I do it all the time, is to create multiple streams of income. So please leave your comment down below. um, Let me know if, even if it's something like what I've said on depression, if it's something that I've said about religion that you just don't agree with, go ahead. Let me know down below. Um, it's all right to disagree with me. I'm perfectly fine for that. Do it in a constructive criticism, of course, not just call me an a hole or something, because that really doesn't look good on you or really support your argument on anything like that. Um, Sorry if I was, too controversial for some people on this. But remember, stay humble, stay hungry. Thanks, guys.